Hello and welcome to Around the Lens, episode 131. Oh my goodness, we are getting so close to big episode 150, the 3-year mark, but I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is David J. Murphy. I am the host of Around the Lens, your live weekly visual journalism roundtable show coming at you every Monday night at around 8 p.m. Eastern. With me, as always, is my co-host, Zach Roberts.
Hello, how goes it?
It goes great. How are you doing, Zach? What's up with the new? What's up with you?
I'm alive. It's my birthday today.
Happy birthday!
Turned 37.
Yeah.
So this is my layer cake, celebratory bottle of wine before I, quit drinking again for a while. Because need to get after going down and covering the Texas and going down to the border and dealing with 95-degree heat and 130% humidity. I really need to get into better shape carrying that equipment around. So yeah.
Good deal. So it's encouraging you to get back in shape. But I think the best thing about quitting drinking is when you restart, it gets you drunk that much faster. So anyways, it's all cyclical.
I have a tendency to keep my tolerance high. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you're joining us on your birthday, and again, this happy birthday to you. My present is your appearance on tonight's show. So, are you doing anything to celebrate? Did you do anything this weekend, or are you doing anything planning for tonight?
I just got back from family vacation out on as I always joke, the whitest place in America outside of a Klan rally, Provincetown, Massachusetts, and Cape Cod.
Nice. Okay. Cool. How was that? Was that fun?
It's always fun. We went on a whale watch, saw a couple whales, nothing that spectacular photographically. Actually, I let my sister borrow my camera, my 17-year-old sister, and she actually got better shots than me.
Of course.
I'm telling you, God damn it. Which shows you she literally has no photo experience whatsoever other than selfies on, Snapchat. It is kind of depressing and makes me really want to get my stuff together.
Okay. Yeah, man. Come on. This wake-up call. Don't let your sister knock you down.
I'm quite proud. I hope to God she doesn't go into the field, though. I don't want to be too encouraging because, there can only be room for one artist, one dead broke photojournalist in the family. My sister works for a venture capital firm, and so she's doing okay. And we need this one to at least I think go into nursing. I think where she's considering talking about going, although I don't really see her dealing with blood, so that'll be interesting.
Just do what my mom tried to get me to do, which is basically do a job that is a service that she can take advantage of, like mechanic or doctor or lawyer or, nurse or something, so that, I can be that for her. That was like her whole career path guidance for me was just do something, hey, have you ever thought maybe a mechanic? You can help me work on my car. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to be a mechanic. Thank you, Mom, for those encouraging words of wisdom and those wise words. Before I introduce our guest tonight, and I'm very excited to have, a great returning guest in the name of Bruce Byers, who will be talking to us shortly. I just want to let you all know and remind you all that, of course, we would love to have more listeners, more viewers, more participants on the show, guests and whatnot. And one of the things I'm asking you to do as a listener, viewer, however you get the show, is just tell one person about the show, anybody that you think might be interested. I want to see if we can't leverage word of mouth to overall increase the audience size of the show. And I'll tell you, I see the numbers every week, and they are growing slightly. There is growth there. But I want to see if we can really accelerate the growth. We've tried advertising, we've tried cross-promotion, we've tried a number of different ways, and again, I've seen mild growth, but I want to see if we can really up those numbers. So if each and every one of you tells one person about the show, we could double our audience. So give it a shot. I'm not asking you to donate to us via Patreon. I'm not asking you to buy any of our merch. I'm not asking you to do anything like that. Just tell somebody about it. So, anyways, that's my plea. If you do that for me, have my eternal gratitude, and I'll be your best friend forever. Okay, let's get on with the show. We got a lot of show to get to tonight. Mr. Bruce Byers, please tell us about yourself and who you are and what you do.
Well, photographer here in New York. Been shooting since the 60s, so as you can see in the background here, got quite quite an archive back here, and it's great to be back with you guys. I'm also the head photographer of Camera Odysseys, which is a photo workshop organization that we take people around the world. Last November, we had a wonderful trip to Sri Lanka where we embedded a photographer into a medical mission, which is almost impossible. And they had, besides the blood and guts, they had a great time. So we're here. We talk photography all the time. A part of APA New York, which is a great American photographic artist organization nationwide here in the United States for photographers of every level. I'm actually, don't tell anybody, but I'm supposed to be at a board meeting tonight. I am the treasurer, but I opted to come be here tonight.
You're doing promotional work for it, so it's justified. That's right.
So I shouldn't have shared this with them on Facebook?
Yeah. But
it's promotional
I'm the
for
treasurer,
APA.
so if they want any money, they have to be nice to me.
Exactly.
That's always the best spot on a board to have.
Indeed. Just go like this. Just go with the hands, the hands with the rubbing, and you'd be like, okay, settle down.
But we have I've just hooked up with Hasselblad to do joint projects with my workshops down to Cuba, and I'm also working on a workshop with DJI with drones to do a drone workshop, which is very hard to fly in New York. But as my friend says, God owns from your shoelaces to heaven. Mm-hmm. And the NYPD owns God.
Mm-hmm. See, I always heard they are God, but that was from other NYPD officers.
So it's very hard to fly in New York, and people love running into airplanes and helicopters with their drones, and they don't quite like that.
Yeah.
So, but got a lot to do.
Yeah, don't fly a drone in Cuba either, because I hear that'll get you arrested. And,
yes. If you got it in there first, you first got to get it in there. Then you get chased.
Yeah. We actually we didn't have him on, but there was that story about that guy who I guess was put since he was in prison for a bit down there, and he told us a story, and we talked about it on the show, and then he actually he communicated with us and kind of, I don't know, he wasn't very happy with our discussion of it. I think I tried to have him on. I don't know. It was a while ago, but don't fly a drone in Cuba. Just a little word of wisdom. Yeah, they will take it from you, and you'll have to pay to have it held, right?
Yeah. If you get it through the customs, you're really, really lucky. But they X-ray all your bags going in. So, but I can bring in camera equipment. They don't care about it. But if it's got GPS on it or anything else,
oh my gosh!
And then take it the reverse. We're trying to go into Pakistan to do water projects, and we can fly drones there.
Yeah.
So we want to fly the drones along to follow the water path, and they allow you to do that. So it's amazing how one says no and the other one probably doesn't even know what it is.
Yeah, different rules for different municipalities, different countries, and stuff like that. So. I mean, my fear is it's only going to get more and more restrictive as more and more countries, develop laws and rules against them. So, I love my drone, but honestly, it's kind of in a shelf and in a bag majority of the time, but I do want to take it out more and more often. I love that new the Mavic Air, whatever it was. It's like the smaller than the Pro. I think it's the Mavic Air. That thing is awesome. But. Anyways, as awesome as they are, they're not so awesome if you can't use them. Am I right? Anyways. Well, Bruce, glad to have you on. We got a lot to talk about tonight. And we want to get started with, of course, the most, I think, important news of the last week or so. The Capital Gazette newspaper shootings. We lost 5 of our fellow, journalists, faux journalists, folk. At the Gazette, newspaper here in Annapolis, Maryland, and it's a real tragedy. Basically a gunman. He came into the Capital Gazette newsroom in Annapolis on Thursday afternoon, So this past Thursday, and killed 5 people. So, again, it was described as a war zone. The victims were Rob Hyacin, Wendy Winters, John McNamara, Rebecca Smith, and Gerald Fishman. So, again, these people were all there for decades, or again, had been in the industry for a while. So lost a lot of good, talented people that day. And I'm not going to talk about the victim because not the victim, but the perpetrator. I'm not going to give them any sort of attention or picture showing or anything like that. Obviously, they're a horrible, horrible excuse for a human being. But again, what do y'all think about this? I mean, I haven't heard or seen any big news about a shooting against the press since France. The big shooting that occurred. Oh, geez, what was the name of that newspaper? I'm sorry, I didn't. Oh man! Anyway.
Against the basically the French kind of the Onion. They're a satire and satire magazine. But yeah,
I'll look it up. I'll give you the answer. But what do you guys think of this shooting? What do you think about the state of everything and this how does this shooting affect you? What did you think about when you heard about it?
Well, I think that a lot of this stuff is probably has nothing to do with the press, has nothing to do with the church, has nothing to do with the school. It's just an individual who is basically allowed to be unmanaged because of whatever's going on in their life, and there's no other way of getting help, and they, for some sick reason, think that this is the way they're going to get help.
Right.
Or go out in a blaze of glory.
Sure.
And I don't have no idea. I bet you they have no idea what it actually feels like to sit there and shoot innocent people. Probably the journalist had nothing to do with what he was there for. So those people are just collateral damage, unfortunately. Just like the children in the school. My father was a minister, and he accepted everybody in his church. He didn't care who they were. There was a park next to our house, near the church. All he said was, "Don't wear your wet bathing suits in the pews. Come in, just change before you walk in. I don't care what you're dressed in." And it would be sickening if any of this kind of happened in his church.
Yeah.
Because there was absolutely no reason for anybody to do anything against this church. And the religion of the church was the people of the church. So just whatever happened down there, it was just, how can you explain it to your kids that someone could actually do this? It just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I'm kind of lucky, I guess, in that my kids are too young to even realize what's going on, or have to have those hard conversations to explain, why shootings happen, why are people bad, why, people kill other people. Zach, how about you? What are your thoughts on this whole debacle? Did we lose Zach? It's always.
Well, I mean, it's the killer had a long-standing grudge against the newspaper. I forget why. Some people had said he had either worked around the newspaper or for the newspaper before and had a grudge. He had had sent in many threats and things to the newspaper, which I assume we'll be finding out, whether they were ignored or what the exact situation was as time goes on. But we've just now started having the funerals, I guess, today for the people who are lost. One of which, by the way, if you recognize, I would check out Carl Hyacin. He's a mystery writer and a journalist upon himself. But his brother Rob was one of the people who was murdered last week, and he's written some really good words about him and about kind of commitment to journalism, everything like that. The interesting thing what I've seen is that I think it was I'm trying to pull up the numbers. I should have bookmarked it. But I think I saw a poll that basically only 27% of newsrooms that answered a poll have any sort of security whatsoever outside of them. which, yeah, as you talk about the church, it's not something, beyond maybe 10 years ago that one would ever think that would be necessary.
Mm-hmm.
There'd always been, there's always, I've been beat up, attacked. I've gotten death threats. I put up a thing on my page asking people to, privately message me, telling me about, whether they've received threats or whatever. Almost basically every single one of my friends who's a journalist has gotten death threats, direct threats. I mean, one of my friends, was part of a national hate campaign. They made flyers about her and everything like that, within the anti-abortion insanity.
Mm-hmm.
This is not necessarily anything new. This is certainly the first newsroom shooting that I ever can remember. I know that two people in the East Coast, two people were killed while they were doing a live shoot, if you remember. I think it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And so it's not unheard of that people will take out their grudges. I mean, every single time it seems to be relatively personal. This is seemingly is coming out more as more information comes out. It seems that there's, it was a personal grudge against the paper itself, not even necessarily against anyone in particular, but, whatever perceived wrongs that happened to him, that the newspaper did to him, I will supposedly, find out whatever it is. But, again, I mean, this is something that, I talk to a lot of journalists now because they know that I've covered some things that vests and, and protection, and people are now starting to ask more and more for domestic coverage of events of, what kind of ballistic helmet do I have to get? Is just having head protection against a baton enough anymore? Do I have to wear a bulletproof vest on a regular basis? I'm trying desperately not to, get into the gun issue or anything else with this, but it's whether it's not a national, because I don't think we've ever had, and it's not just Trump, but I don't think we've ever had this level of hate directed towards the media, in my memory, and across the board, the press, the mainstream media, the whatever you want to call them, people getting, regular death threats, open things, and whether it be across of social media, having that be more open and things like that. But it's going to be a long journey back to normality if we can ever get back there from this event. But yeah, I don't know how to end that rant.
Do we know I'm looking through the story here. Do they say kind of what weapon he used?
I haven't actually seen
Shotgun.
that. Just shot. It was a shotgun. Okay. Yeah. Now that you say it, I remember that. Yeah.
That he bought 3 months ago.
Oh yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I know that, obviously it's, relatively easy to get rifles and shotguns and handguns, obviously I don't know how difficult or hard it is to get any weapon really. But I do know that those are more readily available. Yeah, I mean, the gun debate is, that's a whole other bag of worms, that we're not going to solve or whatnot tonight. I mean, they're out there, they exist, and it's, it's.
But it is a conversation that I never thought when I started even thinking about going into photojournalism, in the late 90s, and one of the many reasons I got into photojournalism was covering, especially in the 90s and late 80s, early 90s and late 80s, was seeing the work coming from Central America and hearing about, people like, our friend Eros Hoagland's father getting killed in the line of duty, working. And that's, I thought when I go overseas, these are the things that I'd have to cover, or these are the things that I'd have to even worry about. I can't remember ever even hearing about a member of the media getting killed in America. I know that there was accidents, there was personal things. I mean, we've had members of the media get killed in the, just a random shooting, just things that was not directed. And, I never thought in a million years that I'd have to carry a bulletproof vest in my trunk of my car, because if I go to an event and hear that things are going to escalate, I mean, the anniversary of Charlottesville is coming up in a month, and basically every single journalist I know that's going to it is bringing a different level of protection. When I went there, a year ago, I didn't even wear stupidly didn't even wear a helmet. And now almost everyone is going to be vested that I know of, and everyone's going to be wearing helmets, and I can't. That fact that this is Virginia. I mean, it's literally we're going to be going to Virginia, like a suburban community in Virginia. Like it's just insane to me that this is now the conversation, that we're having.
So you'll be vested and you'll be invested in what you're doing.
Yes.
I mean, is that really the? I mean, it could definitely be the culture of the status of the media, but is it also? I mean, you're going to events that have a nature of conflict to them. You're going to protest. Has this? If you went to protest, especially on such a vitriolic issue as race, I mean. I have to imagine
we've had
protests.
We've had KKK rallies. We've had, the entire 60s. I don't remember hearing about. I'm sure that there was a journalist or two that had died, but I don't remember. I can't think of a journalist that was killed during the civil rights movement.
What about
can't
Kent
think
State? Not journalists.
There was no journalist.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, and the problem is that where the bullets are directed, where the tear gas and the gunfire and the whatever is being directed. Also, used to my only concern usually was like when I covered Occupy Wall Street or big protests in New York or anywhere else. It's the police, me getting in the way basically of the police's baton between the police and the protest. Then that escalated. 8 years ago, that escalated to police were directing their violence towards members of the media. Yeah. That happened in Ferguson. And friends get direct. Al Jazeera got direct tear gas directed at them live on television. Yeah. And now, but we didn't have to work. There was no one out there. We had Marcus got our friend Marcus got carjacked by a gang. That was in Ferguson, and it wasn't necessarily that was kind of the happen chance of that wasn't a part of the protest. And now I have to consider the one side of the protest is going to direct their violence specifically and directed towards me and directed towards other members of the media. Mm-hmm. And we have now, thanks to different sources, we have emails and texts saying that this is a thing that's going to happen, and that the people they're ready to bring violence to protest, which is not something. I mean, I covered 8 years of protests during the off and on during the Bush administration, which was a little vitriolic. That administration protests were enormous. Never once thought I'd have to worry about that sort of thing, and that I thought that, me having cameras around my neck would at least to some level, or the press badge or whatever. Mm-hmm. And now I'm like, I have to wear something. And, and that again, where that comes from and whether it's always been there. And finally the gates are open because, whether it be because we have a president that says it's okay to go after the media and has told people to attack people at events and things like that. Whether it's just that or whether it's like, I have the feeling that this has always been there broiling, and then that all it takes is a leader to bring it out. But yeah, so
I have to disagree there a little bit. You got a bunch of journalists that are fake news, according to our officials. So if the journalists go in there and do their job right, they prove that it's not fake news, right? So if they take a picture and it's time stamped, like the GPS and everything else, here's the evidence that it's not fake news. So how do you stop real news from happening? Go attack it.
Yeah, exactly.
Chase away. Make the journalist part of the protest. Therefore, they can't stand on the sidelines like they should be and photograph what's going on. That's all a journalist does. When I do a job, when I go even to do my medical missions. I mean, there could be a person bleeding out in front of me. There's 3 doctors there. The last thing I'm going to do is put my camera down and stick my finger in there because I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
I'm just there to record it, and that's life. Well, if they don't want to see that person bleeding out, let's go all of a sudden bang into the photographer and knock his camera over. Now he can't prove that what's going on.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little deeper than I'm sure in the 60s the water cannons were turned on the journalist.
Yeah.
But I was going to bring up civil rights. I mean, is in terms of those were very heady times with a lot of conflict and whatnot. So, but again, I don't know. I don't, like you said, Zach, I don't know of any instances where journalists were attacked.
Yeah.
But I mean, stopping them from taking the picture was attack. I don't think it was that journalist from that newspaper go after them. And I have a feeling that there's some people with some big bucks behind them paying off that gang to go hijack that guy's car. What are you going to go hijack some guy's car for? Yeah. All of a sudden, there was journalists with tons of equipment in there for years. Why didn't you go do it 5 years ago if you wanted to steal their cameras? All of a sudden, you're going after cameras that are all insured, and who cares? I mean, come on.
And Zach, I'm not Bruce. I'm actually trying to hold back a little bit because my level of personal, I have death threats. I get death threats. I've had my work from Charlottesville, even though it's time stamped. I have multiple shots from it. Other people witnessed it. Still, supposedly that photo that I took at Charlottesville in the garage is fake news and was photoshopped. That was literally the top 10 within the top 10 comments originally when I posted it back a year ago was like, oh, well, that's just photoshopped. It's like,
and it was some great Photoshop, Zach.
I wish that I was that talented
Photoshop.
at Photoshop to do it. Especially that sort of Photoshop would take me like a month to do, and it would look like crap. And I specifically don't teach myself Photoshop because I don't even want to be open to the idea of that. Yeah. But
you really have to publish that time lapse you did of you creating the scene. That would be wonderful.
I can do a how to. That's actually next month. I'll do a how to how to fake an award-winning photo for Time magazine. Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Journalist. Yeah. But I do want to say something though about Black Bloc and also the sort of anarchists, because I know you've mentioned, and I think other panelists have mentioned that they're the ones who get upset with the photographers and the journalists out there taking their picture and stuff. It's not just necessarily one side or the other. It seems both sides, at least from what I'm hearing, are necessarily anti-media in a certain way.
They used to be my biggest problem. Back during the Bush administration, they were my biggest problem. People would get angry at me or whatever. Maybe they'd take a swipe at my camera. Just a swipe, not actually trying to grab it. During Occupy Wall Street, it was it was a problem. The police were a bigger problem, trying to get access and not getting attacked or arrested. Like both of those things happened. I got trampled at Occupy Wall Street thanks to the police. Yeah. I had a couple instances, but every Black Bloc again is not an organized group. It's a method of protest. Same thing. Antifa is not a terrorist organization. They are anti-fascists, literally that's the definition of it, which is something I always used to say because the vernacular of it is completely insane. The way that most of the media talks about Antifa as if they're like Al Qaeda, in America. They're not. They're just a bunch of dudes who are anti-fascists who usually show up to fascist protests or like Charlottesville and things like that and confront physically these guys, and which more and more I'm becoming less like that's a thing that shouldn't be done. But that actually, and in Charlottesville, I've said this time, I had one like harsh conversation with someone, but literally all the other, the Antifa, again in quotes, helped me out. When I got tear gassed or pepper sprayed or whatever the hell it was, they helped me out with water. Even though I had my press badge and cameras hanging around my neck, they were incredibly nice to me and helped me out when, the police had no interest in helping anyone at all on either side. letting everything happen. And the first people to respond, the first person to respond to DeAndre Harris, the kid who was attacked in my photos that I took, was a quote unquote Antifa nurse. They have like people on the streets. So I mean, like they used to be a big thing, and I know in other areas I've had conversations with journalists on the West Coast, Black Bloc. Again, I'm putting up quotes for people who are listening. Black Bloc and Antifa. They are considerably more confrontational with members of the media on the left coast, on the West Coast. But my personal interactions, I don't again know if that's just because I'm an open problems. Other friends, connected to other journalists that I know of, like on the East Coast, it's not anywhere near the problem that at least that they talk about on the West Coast. But even then, Antifa doesn't, the protesters, activists, whatever, don't bring to their lefty pro-gun group that often shows up to the redneck revolt, redneck something that shows up to these protests, but they don't fire their weapons the way that the alt-right, white supremacists, whatever, like they do at people. They don't bring bats and shields and things like that the way that the white supremacists do these protests. Again, because those people are prosecuted. Like the people on the left who bring weaponry to protests. We actually just had in Charlottesville there was a protester who was fined $5 for yelling but barely anyone on the right has been prosecuted, other than literally people where photos were taken, photos where evidence were taken of them beating and attacking a young man. So I mean, I certainly that is a problem. That is something that I think maybe if you're like daily call.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So yeah.
Zach, it's like you're dropping out every few seconds there, so it's kind of like, and the Antifa, the president, ISIS. Anyways, so we're gonna move off this subject, but definitely, obviously, a tragedy. Really, obviously some great people lost to us. And if you want to help the families, they actually have a fund to assist families. And I will put the link to that in the show notes because I think, that's, everybody can say thoughts and prayers, this and that. But I mean, if you really want to, do something to show you care, I mean, money is obviously the most viable solution for most of us who aren't from that area. So,
one thing to add to that is that over 800 people have subscribed to the newspaper because one of the big problems is that this has been a huge expense. Obviously, I mean, this is distasteful to say like that part of it, but they've lost four of their best reporters and a news assistant or administrative assistant, and they're going to have to take time to recover. And so subscribe. Go to Capital Gazette website and subscribe. Pay for their news. That's one of the best, and you'll get something from it. So it's a great thing on both sides.
Absolutely, good idea. Good idea. All right, let's go and move on to our next topic this evening. We were talking about drones before the show, specifically bringing drones into Cuba, and how it's not the best idea because it could get you arrested. But in Colorado, you might want to also not bring your drone out, especially if you're trying to get that cool shot of a forest fire, because there have been a lot of issues with drones, some collisions and whatnot with helicopters and other aircraft trying to do the job of putting out a fire. And when some amateur, whoever is flying their drone out in that space, it interferes with their ability to do that mission. So it's gotten to the point where essentially Colorado lawmakers are considering making drone flight during a wildfire a felony. So that's a big deal charge. We're not just talking about like a fine or a misdemeanor. We're talking about a felony. And so, want to get your thoughts on this. Like I said, I love drone flight. I'd love to fly my drone more often and take it out, but, it has to be done responsibly. And we're seeing more and more, municipalities, cities, countries, states, taking action about that. What do you think of this one here, Bruce? I mean, this makes sense to you, right?
Well, in New York, we have the UN, which when everybody comes to the UN, they have a couple, whatever they are, Nighthawk helicopters sitting off the river with their gunships ready to do whatever. And some Yahoo decided to fly his drone and ran into one of the Nighthawk helicopters and almost brought it down.
Oh my God!
So that was a couple $1 million and a few pissed off people. I think that the people that fly drones need to understand that there are airplanes and helicopters already flying there for many, many years, and they are incredibly regulated because there are other helicopters and planes flying around them.
Right.
So you can't just, hey, I'm going to stick my drone up here.
Right.
Well, wait a second. Did you look up? No, but what about the yada yada yada? I fly with my friend up in Connecticut in a seaplane. There's four instruments: altitude, throttle, and how much gas we have left. And we got to watch out for everything, and it's all visual, but we know what we're doing, pilot's license, everything else. We're trying to put together a drone workshop with Camera Odysseys, and the first part of it's going to be sitting with Hasselblad and DJI in their space and sitting in chairs and talking about all this before you get to go out with the drone flyer who knows exactly where to fly and where not to fly.
Right.
So we hope that we're doing it right, because we were talking. I want to go to back into Pakistan to put in water systems. Well, drones are perfect thing to follow a stream. You could launch it and at the top of the stream, and you can get a visual all the way down. I mean, how else are you going to do that? You physically can't do it by foot. The stream gets big, it's small, it goes on, so it's perfect. But if it all of a sudden they cut us off, I don't know why in Cuba, I guess they don't want to. You can't even photograph from the rooftops in Cuba, so putting a drone up is even. And I've seen someone, they let someone do that, and they did an absolute beautiful job. But I know that he operated as if he was flying a helicopter. He didn't operate as if he was flying a toy.
Yeah. I hear that if you're too tall, they also will fine you. Over 6 foot, like Did you, or if you raise your hands above your head, that's a no-no. That's wait a second.
Yeah, but I'm 6'2", and I raise my hands all the time.
Oh, geez. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Bruce.
Right people.
Have fun in that prison. Good luck. It was good knowing you. Yeah, I mean, again, it's like you see more and more drone work in, we're going to talk about in our next topic here, but you see more and more drone work used in photography, and especially award-winning photography. It's out there. So, I mean, there's definitely a desire to fly drones. And I think, some people are, either it's a matter of not knowing the rules, not wanting to know the rules, or maybe just taking the risk. Maybe think they're not going to get caught, flying the drones anyways, because, I mean, nothing's stopping you from buying a drone and just going and flying it. I mean, obviously there are registration systems, and you're supposed to register your drone, and you're supposed to put your serial number on it and all kinds of things like that. But, if you fly the drone and it's far enough away, and I'm sure people think they can get away with it, and so there'll always be risk. It's kind of like one of those things. We've opened this Pandora box of drone work, and it's like, now how do we deal with it? So obviously Colorado is saying, well, we'll make it a felony. Increase the charge. And I think if you see a drone take down a passenger plane or a helicopter, if lives are at risk, or if people die because of a drone, I think you will see harder and harsher regulations. They may turn into something where it's like the only people allowed to fly drones are those, who are fully vetted and licensed, and drone sales would be like something like a controlled substance or a controlled item that are only sold to people who have licenses, But hopefully it doesn't come to that. But, that would be, I think, a future someday. Or maybe you have to, be, if you're working for a newspaper or something like that, you have to be accredited to fly a drone,
Well, I mean, this is.
I can go out and get my automatic assault rifle for nothing at the game, at the show down here on the corner. So who gives a crap, Yeah. But the guy who flies drones all the time says in last Christmas 6,000 drones were bought for Christmas.
Right.
But every single drone has a identifier on it, that radio identifier.
Yeah.
But he was also saying the bad guys that fly drones take those identifiers off.
Of course. Yeah.
So it's just like the guys that buy the anti-gun. They're not going for a license. They don't care.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, again, it's the guys who don't want to pay attention, don't want to play by the rules or the safety of others, that is screwing it over again for all of us.
Yeah.
Those guys. Always ruin it for everybody else.
Well, just think if you had a protest and you could fly 2 or 3 drones over the protest that were in stationary positions watching the entire protest, how many people would be anti that? Because then is that fake news anymore? It's like the drone is sitting there recording, like a security camera sitting there recording. So I think there's a lot of that that's going into all this. Not, Colorado's a different thing. Don't fly it with airplanes. But
Well, this is actually Colorado lawmakers as in congressmen, so it's actually a national law that they're pushing forward.
Wow.
So it'll be a national. Yeah, Senators Cory Gardner and Michael Bennet from Colorado. So it's also a bipartisan thing, which is also surprising. Securing Air Force for Emergency Responders Act. I think that now I haven't read the wording of the law or what their bill is proposing, but everything I've kind of looked into this and seeing is that it's relatively specific during over a fire, covering a fire. When emergency personnel responders need to be flying over it. And I actually asked a couple friends from, former guests, Nick Curry and Noah Berger, and Josh Edelson. Also, these guys are all, cover wildfires out in California, relatively continuing, actually doing it right, I think probably right now. I'm surprised they actually responded. But they're saying, fully support this. I'm a drone hobbyist. I'm on a drone hobbyist group, and it's insane the stupid comments people post. Those firefighter helicopter pilots are just pussies. It's not a problem to fly in a fire. Crap. Like that. I've covered a lot of wildfires where all aircraft get grounded for 10 to 30 minutes when a drone is flying. And also, like, one thing that I think that unless you're a really experienced drone pilot, you don't understand the different wind conditions that happen during a wildfire. You have extreme winds and everything like that change your ability to control it. But all 3 of them and everyone else that's commented on this post, because I asked a couple people about it, completely and totally support the idea of basically banning drones during a wildfire. Obviously, I think that if this law is specific enough, I think it's fine. I'm not a fan of drones because I want to be in the helicopter taking the photos. I don't want to be on the ground. That's why I got into this business, as I always joke. Like, I want to be up in the sky taking the photos. I don't want to be on the ground running a remote control if I can help it. So I honestly hope that they do this because, this is a serious thing, whether they run into helicopters or even if they don't even have to run into a plane or a helicopter, but they will end up keeping the helicopters from lifting off in the first place. And, what's it going to take until you have that moment where they decide that it's not safe enough to lift off, and then they don't actually fly and stop a house from burning with somebody in it. I mean, and I always hate those kind of, what if scenarios, but I think that this is one of those that it's not needed. We don't need it. We don't need drone coverage of wildfires every minute. They're wildfires, unless they're run by the firefighters themselves, and they need, and they need to know where it's going. Drones can be a very useful thing on that. But they have helicopters, and they have, ways of covering this thing that they've been doing for decades. So I would say let's hope that this bipartisan bill actually gets signed and made into law, because I fully support it. Maybe not a felony. Maybe a felony is too harsh. I don't know. But I guess it depends on what it comes with. But I fully support actually putting a ton more restrictions on drones, because this is to me, this is one thing that actually can become very dangerous very quickly. As dear God, 6,000 people, 6,000 people lifting their drones off. There goes privacy, any privacy that anybody might have. There goes all this stuff. It's bad enough that when Amazon's going to start flying their drones around, or whoever else, but
everyone will have a drone company.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and move on to our last topic this evening. I'm glad to have Bruce here, because this deals with travel photography. National Geographic announced their winners for the 2018 National Geographic Travel Photographer of the Year contest. So I'm going to switch to the screen here so you can see what we're talking about. If you're listening to us, I'm sorry, but if you're watching us, you get to see what we're seeing. Anyway, so we're just going to kind of run through these photos here, and being the travel photography expert, Bruce, you can kind of start us up here and tell us your thoughts on these. So let's start with the grand prize. Start with the best. First prize winner here, nature category, shot mermaid, which is it's a whale's tail, humpback whale. It's a very pretty shot. I think it's okay. There's nothing in it. It doesn't look extraordinary to me, but again, I'm sure it's very, as Zach can attest, it's tough to shoot a whale. It's tough to photograph a whale, right? So
yeah.
From a boat, and it's probably even harder in the water. But Bruce,
I wanted to make a Moby Dick reference right now, but I couldn't think of anything. Call me Ishmael.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
all I got.
Nice.
I'm not actually seeing the photo.
It's shared on our screen. So if you're watching if you're watching it live or watching the video, you can see it. You have to actually go to the website that I linked you to actually see the photos. But I'll start. Again, we've got the first shot here, the mermaid. It's a whale and a tail, and by all means, go check that out. You can watch along with us. But that's a pretty shot. I gotta stop doing that. Anyways, so that's what's going on there, and then just going through the photos here, we've got flamingos taking off. That's pretty nice. That's definitely, it's got to be a drone shot.
Yeah.
You can't.
That is actually interesting that, let's see, I assume the alligator shot is a drone. I assume that the pyramid, was it? Oh, no, it's a Mayan? Mexican, okay, they don't actually say, but geometry of the sun, I assume that's a drone. Yeah, it is. And I also guess that I think that's Hong Kong. Yeah, it's Hong Kong drone. So it's like 3 out of 6 or 7 are drone shots, which is kind of, I don't know. Like, I guess to me that always brings up within nature photography, like one of the biggest, one of the reasons that nature photographers are so, the good ones are so, held up as amazing photographers is that they actually got photos of this animal that's instinct is to run away, or this completely and totally hard to reach scene that's incredibly difficult to get to. And now you have drones and you're like, I can just sit. All we know is some of these people are just sitting in their hotel room flying this thing off the water and taking shots, and you're like, wait. And obviously these are amateur, photos, but and all the composition is very good on them. So I mean, like, I'm not saying that, but it is interesting that I would say half of these have to be drones. I can't imagine that they're not. Oh no, actually, I'm sorry. Flamingos take off was taken out of a helicopter. So props on you, How Jay. Props on you for getting up there and actually taking the photo. I apologize for what I just said.
Well, something had to get the flamingos to take off. So
yeah, I always think the helicopter did that.
But yeah, I mean, that's a great shot. The shot of the Mars, what is it? Marco Grassi, the towers, the Earth pyramids, the Platen, northern Italy, South Tyrol region. That is, it's freaky right there. I've never seen anything like that before. So it's a very neat shot of, just something unique. Cities, that's interesting. Inside of a bus. Man, if I know that was an award winner, I could shoot inside of a bus any day of the week and get a shot. Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, it's either a drone or a helicopter, but I'd say probably a drone to get that perfect alignment right over the pyramid like that. That's where the drone is going to help you out, and that's about the height. That's about the max height of most drones I've seen or worked with. They can get really high, but it makes her a very pretty shot. Most of these shots are pretty. Like I definitely like the the Hong Kong one? Yeah, that's very neat.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of photos like that from Hong Kong, and this is one of the better ones I've ever seen. There's a lot of really great street photographers and people who take photos of the incredible, insane. I've been to Hong Kong, the unbelievable apartment complexes that they have, and I mean, it's not tough to get a really interesting shot of that, but this is really, really awesome. Like the colors and the contrast of the white is really fantastic. And even though I have to assume this has to be a drone, this one has to be a drone. It doesn't say it is, but I can't see a helicopter dropping in in the center of all these apartment buildings. But who knows?
You never know. And of course, one area that didn't have drone photography was the people category, or at least we don't know if they used the drone. Who knows? They could have. And I think, the people category is kind of an aspect or area where, I think you would be the one to excel at that most, Bruce, because, I saw your pictures from Cuba. You're always shooting people, great shots of people out there.
Well, I was actually thinking of working with a drone, and my friend that shoots with the drone a lot, he's got the limitations of getting up too high because of New York, and he shoots a lot of ships in the harbor. And he says that the drone, he works with the drone a lot because it puts it higher than his monopod can go, and it puts it lower than his helicopter can go. So it puts it right in that level that makes it that where he really needs, like following a ship out of the harbor. Well, his drone goes underneath the bridge. Well, his helicopter can't go under the bridge with the thing.
Yeah.
So, but when it comes to people, 98% of the people shots, because I shoot with a 35 millimeter. Very rarely do I shoot people with my telephoto, so I'm right there, and the fact that I'm standing there actually creates the photograph. Actually, and just like the helicopter making the flamingos fly, I make that person look at me.
Yeah. I
make that person run away. I make that person walk the way I actually want them to walk, hoping to walk. So I'm not going to be dragging a drone down the street anytime soon. And sometimes I'm at 6'2", I'm too tall, and I got to start bending over and getting down at that lower level. So I change my perspective on it.
Yeah, you can use the drone to get a lower level shot. You can just fly it down by your knees. Then you don't have to bend over anymore.
Then I can sit and drink my rum and don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
I want them to create AI drones that you can just say, like, okay, go shoot this protest for me and come back with, just some good protest shots. Okay, drone? All right, see ya. It comes back, it's like transmitting the pictures back to you. It's like beautiful shots of beautiful moments, That's the dream right there. You just send the drone out, go get the shots.
Yeah.
No danger.
Well, the other thing with the drones and quote photo contest or whatever, is it really a fair contest? if 3 people fly drones and 9,000 people shoot film, and the drones, of course, are going to get that new type of photo, that new, not seen before. So that kind of wins the contest because of that, not because it's a better photo, but it's because it hadn't been seen before and it's a new angle and everything else. Well, so it's either a drone contest or a photo contest. So I mean, it's sort of like the contest where you get to use your computer to manipulate. You know, that should be one contest. You shouldn't put that with street work where you're walking down the street trying to capture that image up against somebody who can take one picture and multiply it 10 times on a street. I mean, how can you compare the two?
Yeah. It'd be great if there was its own drone category here, because I mean, there were getting the thing and the technical aspects of getting a decent drone photo are its own thing. So not to lessen it, compared to other, methods of photography, I guess. But again, it is weird that it's put aside where I actually have physically have my hand on a camera versus I'm on a remote control with a button, and the thing is kind of getting a completely insane angle that no human could do. And again, there's also, to me, there's always especially for not professional awards. There's also this problem of financial aspects. And yes, I know drones are cheaper and cheaper, but having access to these spaces with a drone is also still a financial edge that I think that people have, because it should be a completely different category, because I mean, I don't think you can rate them up against some of the incredible photos that you have here. And you're like, although the flamingo shot, being a helicopter shot does, I think maybe deserves to be there then. But
so I'm going to take a counter argument to both of you and say that, drones are just another piece of equipment. You can say the same thing. People when going from film to digital be like, oh yeah, well, how you didn't actually physically expose that film. You just shone light on a sensor, and it's like, you talk about drones are just another piece of equipment, and it's a pantheon of equipment you use. Like, for instance, shooting the underwater shots. Maybe that was shot by the guy there, or maybe he had a little underwater drone that he shot with, I mean, that still required the camera, required a housing, required, a number of other things to get that shot probably. And then, going into like the financial aspect or the restrictions or, everything about photography is, the restrictions of finances to, get you either the equipment, get you access to the location, hiring a helicopter to get a flight, hiring a boat to take you out to where whales are, all of it is huge expense. If we're going to take into account like, oh, you have to have shot this without, spending a dime or whatever, or just with your, camera that you have. I mean, the bus shot, that would be, maybe the shot of, I think looks like Dubai or something like that. Here reflected, Prasad. No, that's the name of the guy. I don't even know. But, the city shot, you could probably do that. That's something you could easily do if you're in a building outside looking through the window. The shot of the T, a lot of these people shots seem, very doable. But again, they're all contingent on access. So is this shots that we're taking by somebody who this is their backyard and they're just getting, what they see in their backyard? Or is it something where they flew halfway across the world to do a photo story about, tea culture, and whatnot. So, it's a hobby for the people who have money in a lot of ways, photography sometimes, because it's the knowledge of how to do these stuff. It's the access to the equipment, access to the editing equipment, access to the internet access, the ability to submit this stuff. I don't know if this was a pay for contest, but
So here's a
what I'm saying is I wouldn't separate it because of the effort or the equipment. It's like as long as it wasn't created by AI and there was someone who composed it, whether it was being remotely via a screen or whatever, I think it's all fair game. But that's my take on it.
Cool.
That's my rant.
Valid.
I get to have my rant.
I was changing the subject to, because talking about these contests where people submit and they're not not professional contests, which usually have a bit different rulings and things like that when it comes to use, whether you submit a photo to a magazine or an organization for awards. If you notice on all of these images, I can download a desktop version, a tablet version, or a phone version of all of these photos for my background wallpaper of my computer or my electronic device. What would you, if say, I guess we're, all professionals, so it's hard. Like, I personally wouldn't do this. I wouldn't allow that for any of my work, I don't think. Unless it was like a really big award, I guess. I'd be like, whatever. But would you consider doing that if you say in your amateur life? Because I feel very uncomfortable with that personally.
With putting out high resolution versions of your stuff?
with allowing, as part of the contest rules,
of course,
they allow users, any random Joe, to download a desktop version of the file.
Right.
Let's see how big it is. It's got to be pretty decent. And being able to, maybe not being able to print it or something like that, but it is an interesting. Okay, it's only 316K, so it's not enormous, but it is an interesting thing. I haven't seen that before in a lot of amateur contests where the award winners' photos can be downloaded and just used without watermark or anything like that. Oh no, there is a tiny watermark in the bottom right-hand corner. Okay, I'm wrong. But yeah, I don't know. Any thoughts?
I'd be wary of any contest that asked for the rights to your photographs for sure.
Yeah.
And I'd probably question ones that want to give it away for free. So yeah, definitely would got to read those rules and regs.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce.
Well, APA New York and APA National is spent lots of money fighting for copyright down in Washington, and when photographers say, "Oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that," I go, "You're gonna do what? What are you doing? Don't you realize you give away your photo shoot, and then 2 months later you bitch you don't have any work because they've used your photo 52 times and paid you zero?" So copyright is very, very important. We actually did not have an Instagram account for almost 3 years because of their use that they can take your photos and do whatever the hell they want with. And it's kind of like the new generation says, well, what's wrong with that? I get to see my photo all over the place. Well, you're not professionals. You're not making a living at this. You're not out there buying $5,000 cameras and getting them busted up 2 days later, paying the insurance, and then come back and realize that you just sold a photograph for $2.52.
Yeah.
It's like, photography has gotten to the point of being wallpaper. They don't even make refrigerators anymore that you can put a magnet on and put your photo up, the print up on of your kid.
Yeah.
So if people are growing up with that, whoa, yeah, look at this contest I just won. That whale shot is seen by millions of people because of National Geographic.
Yeah.
And because that guy allowed it to be now spread out all over the place. And he probably went on vacation. Nothing against. I do a lot of stuff on the on the flip side where it's real cheap and everything else. I get some great shots. Wow, that was amazing. But let's see, he wants to do a project on whales because that was so successful.
Yeah,
he's not going to get any money for it because
he
just gave all his rights.
Well, you got these, the
paid for it.
Yeah, it's like the younger generation values exposure more than money, and getting those likes and getting those thumbs up. It's like that's great until you got to pay for food. But
I will say though the grand prize it actually has, and this is one thing that pisses me off about PDN, Magazine Photo District News, does a lot of contests and they cost like $35 per photo to submit, and you win. You don't win a lot. Like, you win, like, the grand prize wins, like, $500 and a Canon 70D or something like that, which was given, sponsored by B&H Photo or whatever. The grand prize photo winner here, that whale shot, got $10,000. And the first place two finalists will be named first prize winners and receive $2,500. And so, like, I certainly at least give them credit for actually giving a decent prize amount, and if you had this sort of publicity, if I shot that photo for National Geographic, I don't think I'd get $10,000, even if they put it on the cover.
So they really did get paid for their rights, which is great if the person understands that.
Exactly, yeah.
And so that they go to the next. So if everybody pays the $500, and National Geographic allowed us to use it for wallpaper, so why can't I? And if you think about it, Popular Photo, if it's even still in existence, everything had their contest. Each photo was $35.
Yep.
They had something like 40 to 50,000 submissions times 35, and they're giving away $500 plus a camera that got donated to them.
Yeah.
It's just a profit machine. That's all it really is.
Obviously, this is National Geographic, and National Geographic's part of a monster. Now it's owned by Fox, so it's part of a massive production thing. It isn't just a non-profit magazine anymore. I think that this was free submission, which, again, credit to them. I'm quickly reading the things. I'm not seeing anything completely outrageous here beyond anything when it comes to rights grabs and that sort of thing. But I'm just scanning it really quickly, the license usage and stuff like that. I could be completely wrong and missing a lot of things, but I will certainly give them credit for the amount. That was literally it, because usually, again, I used to submit every once in a while to the Photo District News because you get a lot. It is a good. That magazine is read by important people and all that jazz and all that stupid stuff. But again, it was $35, and then they lowered the prize amount to like $500 for a couple of them. And I was just like, well, that's just. I would if I got a photo series printed or a couple photos printed in Photo District News, like that type of magazine, a nice big glossy, I would expect $500 and no additional rights, one time usage sort of thing. That's maybe a day. That's like a okay day rate now, and But yeah, props to Nat Geo for actually having a decent prize amount on this. Not, and I will say also actually having a watermark and information about the photographer on the wallpaper, because I've seen other places do this sort of thing and they don't. Even World Press Photo on their awards, they allow you to use for press and media if you're an award winner. I have a full download, high-res download of all of the prize winner digital thing with the press packet. If you're going to write about the awards, and there's no watermark written on the side of it. It's just a raw digital. It's just a digital image without any watermark and name attached to it, other than on the file name, which is disappointing. But
well, if you want to get involved in APA. American Photographic Artists is really, really big on it, and we watch it like a hawk because they really piss us off sometimes. Yeah. And now they're gonna double the submission cost to the Copyright Office.
Yep.
And they're going to delay the amount of time it takes, how many photos you can put in. So it's going to get more and more expensive to protect your rights. So it's up to everybody who's actually creating images to give a crap about their image. It's past taking the picture.
Yep.
Keep it off your cell phone and actually.
Anyways, let's close off this week's show. Bruce, why don't you go ahead and promote the trip that you're coming up, or anything you'd like to promote before we end today's show?
Well, cameraodysseys.com, worldwide photographic workshops. We know Cuba incredibly well, so if you ever want to go to Cuba, people are walking down the street, meet me on the street, and go, "You Cuban yet?" And so I've been there so many times and all over the island, and whatever the government is saying, Cuba was voted the safest location for tourism in the world.
Yeah.
So, and trust me, I've taken down $750,000 worth of phase equipment, and they haven't bothered me at all. So Hasselblad has partnered up with us. We'll be going down with the 1XD, X1D, which is a wonderful camera for walking around, lightweight, 50 megapixel. And November 30th to December 7th. And then we've got trips throughout the winter. And in 2019, October, we're going to Nepal and Bhutan. If you want to go to someplace absolutely incredible, get in touch with me at cameraodysseys.com and we'll talk.
Okay, great. Zach, you got anything for us this week?
I was down at the border, covering some things, if you heard about them, happening in the news.
The Canadian border?
Yes, the Canadian border. Yes, down at that border. Anyway, but yeah, you can go to Nation of Change and just search. I think it was from a couple days ago, so it's probably not on the front page. But you can search my story. Just search my name in the search box, Zach D. Roberts, and it'll come up. And finally working on, again, I've been talking about it for months, working on my book about covering the resistance protests over the last year or so. Hopefully, I'll be having more information about that relatively soon.
Nice. Okay.
Yep.
I'd love to talk to you sometime about getting involved more with journalism and doing stuff. And I am going to the upper border tomorrow, going to Buffalo.
Oh,
Nice.
Cool. Be vaguely in my neck of the woods. I'm north of Syracuse, so.
Nice. You guys should meet up. Get some coffee.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I just want to let everybody know that there is actually a drone photography competition. You can go to dronestager.am, drone, stagr.am, and there you go. You can see drone content. They have a people category and a nature and an urban. So there you go. No more drone photography anywhere else in any other contest. Just put it in the drone photo contest. All right? Can we all agree on that, everybody? Let's agree not to fly our drone. Don't fly your drones into wildfire, and throw your drone photos into a drone photo contest.
Or just fly them directly into a wildfire, and you'll be okay.
There you go. Yeah, just crash it right there.
Hey, as long as you got a wireless feed going, you get some awesome footage as your
and then they would sue the fire for ruining their drone.
Exactly.
That's what I would do. All right. Well, I think that's going to end this week's show. Bruce, thank you so much for taking time to appear with us. Always a pleasure to have you on. For Zach Roberts, I am David J. Murphy. This has been Around the Lens, episode 131, and we are out.